Could the Sixers try to trade for Giannis Antetokounmpo this offseason? The Milwaukee Bucks coming off another first-round exit, and rumors are swirling that Giannis could ask out this offseason. We're going to dive into what a Giannis trade could look like for Philadelphia. But first, get involved here on 76ers Now. And if you do want the Sixers to trade for the Greek Freak, go ahead and hit that thumbs up icon, like the video so I can see how many people want to trade for Giannis. If you don't, that's fine, but explain to me why down in the comments section. Is Giannis asking out from the Milwaukee Bucks? Many people around the NBA and around the association believe that Giannis could ask for a trade this offseason. If he does, should the 76ers get involved in a potential trade? So, a lot of rumors that have been swirling, and after their recent loss, people have been speculating, is his time done? Because he said multiple times he wants to be able to contend for a title for the rest of his career. And Charania, after their loss to the Indiana Pacers, said that the Bucks and Giannis are scheduled to meet after the season to discuss his future and the future plans for the team. Now, this isn't anything crazy. The Bucks meet with Giannis after every season to discuss these kinds of things, but you imagine that these conversations are going to have now could be a little different than what they might have been in previous years. Giannis was asked about his future after the game, and he really declined to comment on that, saying, I just wish I was still playing, wish I was still in the playoffs. He's such a competitor, and obviously he's smarter than to feed into the speculation on his future. But look, I would not be surprised if he does ask out, given where the Milwaukee Bucks are right now as an organization with their current roster, some of the injuries they have now suffered. Chris Haynes, with a recent report on Giannis' future with the Bucks, saying that I don't think Giannis will finish his career in Milwaukee. Wholesale changes are coming if they don't make a deep run in the playoffs. Front office, coaching staff, etc. Bucks could go in a different direction, including trading Giannis if things go sour in the postseason. And well, things did go sour in the postseason. Since the Bucks won that championship back in the 2020-2021 season, where of course Giannis was just spectacular, they have lost 3 times in the first round and once in the second round to the Boston Celtics, including back-to-back first-round losses to the Indiana Pacers. You'd expect a team with someone like Giannis to at least be able to make it out of the first round in a 3-year stretch, but to no fault of his own, with how poorly constructed that team has been built, and with injuries to his star players, they just have not been able to get it done in the postseason. And looking at this current construction of the Bucks right now, Damian Lillard, unfortunately, just tore his Achilles in that series against the Pacers. We're wishing Dame a speedy recovery, but he's probably going to miss all of next season, which really puts a damper on this Bucks outlook. You take a look at their roster heading into next year. Of course, you have Giannis. You have Dame, who's now going to miss all of next season. After that, it's Kyle Kuzma, who was not as good as the Bucks would have hoped after trading for him this season. Bobby Portis has a player option. He'll probably be back, but it's like outside of that, Pat Connaughton, who's way overpaid, Kevin Porter Jr., who's a decent player, AJ Green, who I actually thought showed some things as a shooter, then Andre Jackson, Chris Livingston, Tyler Smith. It's just not a very good roster, and they don't have really any young talent, and they don't control any of their first-round picks until 2031. The bottom line, Giannis is not winning a championship with Milwaukee anytime soon. Unless they make some massive, massive moves and trade Dame to get another star, or try to trade Kuzma, there's just not a whole lot of paths for the Bucks to get better because, again, they don't control and they aren't able to trade any of their first-round picks until 2031. So, with all that being said, that's why I could see Giannis asking out this offseason. So now when it pertains to the Sixers, what can we actually trade for Giannis? Because, of course, we talk about a lot of trade rumors here on the show, but someone like Giannis is a whole lot different. I don't need to tell you how good Giannis is, right? Probably a top 2 or 3 player in this league. Does it on both sides of the ball. Just an absolute freak, right? That's why they call him the Greek Freak. So it's going to take a massive trade package to bring in Giannis. The Sixers at their disposal right now, when you look at some of their trade assets, both players and picks, of course, when you're talking about trade for Giannis, because he's making $50+ million, going to have to include one of Embiid, Paul George, or Tyrese Maxey to make the money work. It's just going to have to happen. And obviously, trading for Giannis, you need to give away a player close to as talented as he is. So one of those three. And then you got Kelly Oubre at about $8 million, has a player option. I could see him coming back. Some young guys as well, in Jared McCain, Ricky Council, Adam Bona, and Justin Edwards. But where I think the Sixers can get involved a little bit in a Giannis trade is with their draft capital. Potential top 6 pick this year. And that is really going to be big. If they don't get this pick, probably goes out the window. But if they're able to package together the first, second, third, top 6 overall pick in this year's draft with some of these other firsts they have, including the Clippers first in 2028, I think a very valuable asset. A swap with the Clippers in 2029, plus all their other first and 10 second-round picks, I think there's a scenario where they could get it done. And for me, nobody is off the table for a Giannis trade. I know people are going to talk Tyrese Maxey. Look, we're talking about Giannis Antetokounmpo here, a guy who is still in his prime as he's about 30 years old, who, again, a top 2 or 3 player in the league, has won a championship. He's been there, done that. He's obviously better than Tyrese Maxey. And I love Tyrese Maxey. I wouldn't want to trade him, and I'll talk more about Maxey here coming up in a second. But again, when you're talking about a player this good, I don't think anybody can really be untouchable, especially given Joel Embiid's injury history. Now, where this really gets interesting, because I'm sure some people are saying like the Sixers don't have enough with their players. Their top guys they can trade are injury prone and older, and the draft capital isn't all that good compared to maybe some other teams. Think about it in this scenario. What if at the NBA draft lottery on May 12th, the Sixers do land that number 1 overall pick, and they use that in trade talks for Giannis? I think the Bucks would have to listen because they would have an opportunity to land Cooper Flagg as their next face of the franchise as they enter a rebuild. What better way to fast track a rebuild than to land one of the best prospects we have seen in quite a long time and possibly a generational prospect in Cooper Flagg? And again, they don't have tradable first-round picks until 2031, so draft capital for them as they enter a rebuild is going to be the most important thing, of course, as well as enticing young players. So I have 3 different trades cooked up around the 3 Sixers star players for different ideas of what they could do to land Giannis. This first one involves Joel Embiid. Sixers get Giannis. They send out Embiid. They send out their first-round pick this year. And again, these are all assuming they land the number 1 overall pick. If they don't get the number 1 overall pick, I'm not sure the Bucks would be super interested. So Embiid, the first overall pick this year, and I think you'd have to add in as well that Clippers 2028 first, because Joel Embiid, as good as he is when he's healthy, he's just never healthy. And I'm not sure what his value is really right now in the league. It's hard to project that. That would leave you with a potential lineup of Tyrese Maxey and Quentin Grimes at your guard spot, with Paul George still on the roster, Giannis, and then Adam Bona. Could say Andre Drummond, probably going to accept that player option, but I'd probably start Adam Bona regardless. You, of course, could look other avenues to probably upgrade that center spot, but that is what it would look like with how the roster is currently constructed. Again, though, like, would the Bucks want to take the risk on Joel Embiid? Of course, getting Cooper Flagg is really the headline of that deal and all of these deals. And they had to consider from their perspective, if they are going to be a team that's rebuilding, would they really want to take on the older Joel Embiid with his injury history and his massive, massive contract? I don't really know. But then again, if he does go to Milwaukee and he does stay healthy and he is really good, which is a little bit of a long shot at this point, all of a sudden you have Cooper Flagg, you have a healthy Joel Embiid. Like, that's kind of a pretty loaded team right there, at least with those two, plus some extra picks from Philadelphia. Then I'm going to this trade for Paul George here. This is the Sixers, of course, getting Giannis in exchange for Paul George. I'm throwing in Jared McCain in this deal because I think Paul George is even more of a negative asset than Joel Embiid is, with his injury concerns, his poor play this past season, as well as the contract, because another 3 years at $50+ million. So I think the Bucks would want Jared McCain in a deal like this. And then you also have to give up that first overall pick, theoretically, and the Clippers 2028 first-round pick. Look, some of you might be saying that's a lot, but it takes a lot to get Giannis, and honestly, it might cost you even more than this in terms of draft capital. That would leave you with a roster that looks like this. Tyrese Maxey and Quentin Grimes. Obviously, no more Jared McCain coming off the bench, unfortunately. Send out Paul George, so you bring back Kelly Oubre, have him start at the 3. You have Giannis and you have Joel Embiid. If Embiid's healthy, this is a dominant starting 5. Giannis and Embiid as a pairing is kind of music to my ears, in all honesty, because Giannis, with what he can do as a weak side help defender and just playing over the floor. He can even play the 5, which allows Embiid to get more rest, and then you just always have a dominant player out there on the floor. It's a very fascinating trade concept because where does Paul George fall in terms of trade value to a team like the Bucks? I don't know, but that's why you add in someone like Jared McCain, and then that first overall pick. They all of a sudden have a future pick from the Clippers to build around. You have the young player in Jared McCain, and then you have the number 1 overall pick in Cooper Flagg. That would be pretty enticing to me if I'm a team like the Milwaukee Bucks. And then finally, we go to the Maxey deal. So in this one, you send out Maxey. Got to send in a player like Oubre to make the salaries work because Maxey's only at about $37 million. And again, the first overall pick, and then the Clippers 2028 first round pick. Leaves the Sixers with a roster looks like this. All of a sudden, you got Jared McCain now slotted in as the starting point guard coming off the injury, but promising signs in his rookie year. Quentin Grimes, Paul George, Giannis, and Embiid. I'll say this, I don't think I love it. Of course, you have Giannis, so team would still probably be good, but I think it kind of defeats the purpose of a Giannis trade if you do send out Tyrese Maxey. Now, all of a sudden, you're still in a position, if you're the Sixers, where you're still relying on Paul George to bounce back from a bad season and from injury, and you're still relying on Joel Embiid to bounce back from injury. If they don't, you still have Giannis, but then you're relying on Jared McCain, who I love Jared McCain, but we don't really know what he is at this point coming off his injury, and Quentin Grimes. It's not that great of a roster if Paul George and Joel Embiid are not healthy. So I'm not 100% sure I'd be totally on board with sending out Tyrese Maxey in a Giannis trade. But you let me know, which of these 3 Giannis trades do you prefer? Is it the Embiid trade, type 1? Is it the Paul George trade, type 2? Or is it the Maxey trade, type 3 down in the comment section? Let me know where you stand. If you have another trade that you've cooked up yourself that you want, you can throw that in the comment section as well. For me, I've said this, I prefer keeping Maxey in a deal for Giannis, but it might be the only way to get the deal done if the Bucks do not want to have to take on the older, injury-prone, expensive players in Joel Embiid and Paul George. And at the end of the day, we are talking about Giannis here, so if that's the only way to get it done, I think you might have to do it. But the hope is that that number 1 overall pick will be enough to entice the Bucks to take on a player like Embiid or like Paul George. Real One Roll Call. If you made it to the end of today's show, hopefully that means you enjoyed what you were seeing. If you did, hit that thumbs up icon, like the video, let me know you're a real one, and we'll see you next time here on 76ers Now.